Boys, energy high today. I want Bazinga there, Bazinga here, Bazinga everywhere. Let's have fun today. Let's bring it. Come on.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. I'm Neil.
Pat.
I'm Michael.
And this is the 4-on-1. We're covering everything in the football world. Boys, how we doing? How we doing this week?
Oh, my God. Neil, again with the stupid questions.
Dumb question, man.
Wow.
You know, I'm as always. I am what they like to call a regular energy holder. I got a lot of energy, but I do want to slow it down. It's Texas Roadhouse. We have a birthday in the house, everybody. Neil Vitello. Happy birthday, brother.
Happy
Thanks,
birthday,
man.
Neil.
Hope you have it all today. You know, like Texas Roadhouse, where they're like, yeah! It's birthday. You know what I mean? Like, they're huge.
Or Chili's.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, big podcast, though. Very excited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Mike, how are we? What's going on? What life of Mike? What's going on?
Wow, so we got, 5 more days for Rhode Island left of the home order, and then transitioning back into hopefully in-person podcast. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. I'm not sure if it's going to be this one or for 4 more podcasts, but hopefully we will be in person in Austin.
You're in the final days of the Zoom call
Oh,
podcast.
God. I'm hoping so. I just want to get into this podcast, though. Let's do it.
Me too. So today we're covering some NFL rumors as well as contract extensions, who we think if there are some free agents. I actually really want to start out with Cam Newton. We all know Cam is pretty much more about himself than his teammates, and that's a given. But in the past, I feel as though certain teams have made exceptions for guys like Newton if they're really talented. I just want to start with this. Does the fact that he doesn't currently have a home and isn't projected really to find a home, telling of the fact that he doesn't have what it takes to run an offense, or are teams just more afraid to sign him because of his locker room problems? And Mike, I want to kick this off to you.
It takes to run an offense, definitely.
Yeah, I think he does. And I think the question you should be asking yourself is not, does he have the ability to be on a team, but does he have the ability to be a starter? And that, I think, is a different question to ask yourself. Personally, I think he does. I mean, the guy went to the Super Bowl, he won MVP.
I think there are a lot of starters in the NFL that are a lot worse than Cam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about him later in the podcast, but I think Aaron Rodgers, for one, is a guy
Mitch Trubisky, Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, okay. You're talking about worse players. I'm talking about bigger egos, but.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm talking about, just players in general that are completely better. You know what I mean? So, no, I think he's going to be a backup this year, amazingly. But then again, Jameis Winston's going to be a backup this year. Jameis Winston isn't a backup.
Yeah.
Not at all. But, he's going to go there and he's going to learn from Drew Brees.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe learning from Drew Brees will be beneficial to him, but I think the 30 interceptions really don't speak highly of him being a starter. But anyway, I want to hop into Cam Newton. I would say that there are 3 teams that are potentially, if he were to be a starter, I think he's going to sign a backup role, but if he were to be a starter, I would say that there is the Washington Redskins, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Chicago Bears.
Bears, yep.
Right. Redskins, Dwayne Haskins last year did not work out for them.
Didn't the Bears just sign Foles?
They did sign Foles.
Okay. So, but I could tell there's something. So continue.
Yes. So they did reshape Foles' contract.
Mm-hmm.
There is some guaranteed money there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually cut him before the season starts. It may sound a little bit stupid, but let's just talk about the Bears, because Neil obviously brought up the Bears, so we'll just hop right into them.
Strong defense.
Bears had a top 10 defense last year, and they actually ranked 8th overall in opposing yards per game. 8th, right? So remember that number. Out of the 7 teams that were above the Chicago Bears, 7 teams that had less opposing yards per game, 4 of them made the playoffs, more than half. The Steelers were actually 5th place, and they missed by 1 game with a third-string quarterback. So if you put Cam Newton, who was a former MVP, has gone to the Super Bowl, into that Bears offense, and maybe they can get something, going, whether it's like maybe form a powerful run-heavy offense. And I say that, okay, Pat, hold on.
I don't see them beating out Green Bay.
Now that I'm hearing you, I wouldn't necessarily the way that came out is just like, the words like powerful and good next to Bears offense is never really
I
clicked.
know. All right, so hear me out then. Hear me out. So let's
But
look at
I
the
think
running
Michael's
backs
point. I think Michael's. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think Michael's point is the fact that they're set on defense. All they need to worry about now is their offense. They have a serious chance to compete if they can.
I think so. I mean, they have a really solid defense. I think it was just
Their defense is really
overshadowed
good.
by how Mitch Trubisky played last year and why they ultimately
absolutely.
missed the playoffs. But, let's look at the running backs. Tariq Cohen and David Montgomery. That's a really good 1-2 punch right there. Montgomery had, I think, just shy of 1,000 rushing yards. Maybe he got 1,000 rushing yards. Really solid. Tariq Cohen, we already know about him. Really explosive running back, especially receiving the ball. The Bears went out and drafted one of Pat's favorites, Cole Kmet, in the second round and signed Jimmy Graham in free agency. But let's see what all these guys have in common. They're all guys that fit up the middle, right? Tariq Cohen and Montgomery, both running backs. Kmet and Jimmy Graham, both tight ends that fit in that I form.
And dude, look, Allen Robinson too. Like now that I'm thinking about this Bears offense, dude, honestly, it's mostly Trubisky.
Right?
It's honestly like, dude, this offense, as we've all said on this podcast before, they got all the tools. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the offensive line ranked
25th
25th last year, which obviously isn't the
that's
best.
definitely they need some more tools.
And they didn't assess it in free agency, and they didn't assess it in the draft, which they got two linemen in the 6th and the 7th round. But you can't expect those guys to be, long-term additions to your team.
Yeah.
But look, when I was thinking about this, I'm thinking to myself, this is a lot like the team that Cam had in Carolina. Greg Olsen, Jonathan Stewart, two guys that played up the middle. He didn't have a huge wide receiver threat outside. Went to the Super Bowl. I don't think they'll go to the Super Bowl. They might not even make the playoff. I'm just saying.
Yeah, strong.
It just Cam seems like a really good fit in a Chicago uniform.
I like the take.
I'm not, Michael. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I
And remember, sorry to interrupt, but remember, this is if Cam lands a starting role. Okay.
Right. Personally, I don't think he's going.
I don't think he will, just given, the state of the coronavirus and his foot injury that happened last year.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams, being maybe wary of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if he were to, I don't like Jacksonville because I think they're taking for Trevor. Redskins, I think they were abysmal last year and didn't give Dwayne Haskins the time of day. So I think they'll give him one more year, an earn-it year, see what he's got. And if he doesn't have it, they'll tank for like Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. And that's what I think Jacksonville and the Redskins are going to do.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Michael, about
one more thing. Sorry to interrupt one more time. The Bears declined Mitch Trubisky's fifth-year option. So they're obviously not signed into Mitch Trubisky full term. But, Pat, please, I'm sorry.
No. Mitch Trubisky, I think we all know this, obviously isn't the answer in Chicago. And I think Cam Newton would do good. I just think it's kind of preposterous to say that he could be compared to the Super Bowl 2015 Carolina Panthers.
It's a little strong. I'm just saying the offensive landscape that they had.
They got Jimmy Graham in free agency. They got Cole Kmet. I do kind of see what you're saying. I'm getting the vibe that you're getting. But would you say that with this foot injury, maybe his running presence wouldn't be as prominent as it was when he went for that MVP run?
The foot injury and accompanied with him being a 31-year-old quarterback, I mean, he's rushed the ball only over 950 times. That does something to your body, and you accompany that with 31 years old. Mobile quarterbacks don't age that well. I don't like Cam Newton. I've said this in the past 1,000 times. I'm just saying, if there were a fit for him, I think it'd be Chicago. Just to kind of close the door on Cam Newton. I don't mind him. I think Chicago, Michael, I agree to a certain extent that it would be a pretty good fit for him with some familiarity. Familiarity? Is that a word? Yes.
Familiarity, yeah. Whatever. Whatever. And I think there will be some familiar pieces with it. I agree, Mike, but this team isn't going anywhere if he goes over there. But no, personally, I think he will be a backup quarterback somewhere this year. Where, I don't know. But do I think he's eventually going to be a starter again? I do. Yeah, and Michael, you were talking about earlier, you said something about Aaron Rodgers. So he was drafted. I kind of just want to shift topics into this because I'm still kind of in shock about this. So he was drafted by the Packers in the first round in the 2005 draft. Guess how many offensive players they have picked in the first round since 2005? I think they said that during the draft at least 10 times when the Packers picked. Goose egg. So my question to the two of you, and Pat, I'll defer to you here. Were you shocked that they not only took Jordan Love, but traded up
to get him? And more prominently, do you think Rodgers was expecting a pick of another offensive weapon in round 1 of this draft? Thoughts?
Look, here's the deal. Personally, me watching this draft and just watching the picks come up, I'm like, oh, Love's going to go maybe to the Patriots. Love's not going to go there. But when I saw the trade up and I saw, oh, wait, Love's still on the board, I was like, maybe they're going to get Love.
And how electric Matt LaFleur was when they showed him and he picked Love.
So maybe when they made that trade, I knew, but I didn't particularly see that coming. It's like the beginning of the draft. No, I didn't. Do I think they should have gotten another offensive weapon? I don't. I think Rodgers is getting old. I think this puts a fire under his ass and saying, hey, dangle this over his head and say, we have someone. We have someone to replace you. You are getting old, and you will be replaced. And Rodgers is going to be too much of a diva. And to be completely honest, in a couple of years, I don't see him in a Packers uniform. I don't.
You mean getting traded or retiring?
No, not
Traded.
Traded. Love will be the starting quarterback, and Rodgers will leave.
I'm not the biggest Rodgers fan.
I hate Rodgers.
Okay, I'm not the biggest Rodgers fan. But man, oh man, imagine I'm gonna give you a little situation for you. Okay?
Hypothetical.
Yes, imagine you were a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Okay. And for almost 15 years, right? And for almost 15 years, you were loyal to your team. Okay, almost 2 decades, right? And then your team goes out, and instead of getting you help, they draft your replacement.
And it's not like
first round.
It's not like they Pat, to rebut that, it's not even like they really needed to light a fire under his ass, because it's not like he was going like 9-7. He went to the NFC Championship
a few years ago.
No. It's not about his performance. It's about his attitude.
Yeah, I think it's more about his attitude.
The biggest ego in that Packers locker room, period.
But look,
they don't like it.
Here's what happened a few years ago. There was something happened in the Patriots draft. They drafted a guy named like Jimmy something, like Jimmy G, I think it was in the second. Yeah, something like that. Jimmy Garoppolo in the second round. 4 years later, Brady left. Was it because of Garoppolo directly? No.
It was.
But did that add something to it? Yeah, it did add something to it.
It was a factor. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't think, more to Pat's point, I don't think Rodgers is going to finish his career in a Green Bay uniform, because you know what? How can he? Yeah. How can he finish in a Green Bay uniform?
Michaels, you said a couple podcasts ago that Rodgers was planning to stay in a Packers uniform for life, and had said that.
And then they went out and drafted Jordan Love.
They drafted his replacement.
That was before they drafted Jordan Love.
And not even just like, oh, he's the most talented guy, like, oh, he fell to us. No.
Dude, I'm sure Tom never and I'm sure Tom never said it, but I'm sure, like, in a perfect world, Tom wanted to retire.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure he wanted to, like, if he could, but after hearing all that and hearing the Garoppolo and being almost traded.
And then his front office threatened to trade his favorite weapon and draft like 4 replacements.
Right.
So when that happens, you tend to leave. Now, in this case,
if you're successful in an organization, you want to stay. I don't think anybody is going to be successful in an organization and be like, I hate it, I want to leave.
Yeah. But let's juxtapose or compare them. For Brady, it was drafting his replacement like 3 times and then, almost trading away Gronk. And then for Green Bay, for Rodgers, it was drafting his replacement in the first round and not getting him help for
weapons, period.
For like 5, 6, 7 years.
But you know what, dude? His weapons are fine. Michael, you always bring up that like.
I think they're fine. I think they're fine.
The guy's the receiver Lazard.
Alan Lazard. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Devin Funchess. Devontae Adams.
I don't like Lazard. You said it was Lazard.
Yes.
I've never been a huge fan of him. I've looked at his.
Dude, he played good last year. He always comes up on our podcast, and I should get his stats one of these days because he had some really good stats coming down the stretch of the season. And I'm not saying he's going to be the only weapon. I don't want to get too far off on a tangent because we have some really good things to bring up. But I look, you accompany him with 3 other guys, including a top 3 receiver in the NFL, and I don't think Rodgers should be complaining at all, given he has arguably a top 5 running back in the NFL. Jamal Williams is an awesome
Yeah.
backup.
Yep.
And they got A.J. Dillon, who I think is a fantastic running back when he's healthy. I don't think Rodgers should be arguing at all. But when he is arguing and when he is a top 3 quarterback, as a front office, I think you should try to get him help.
Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. What more can you ask for? I don't know. That's personally me. Look,
so while we're on the topic of, we're kind of talking about just like uncertainty. There's a ton of uncertainty as far as some contracts go. Chief among them being Dak, and we all know that the Cowboys recently signed Andy Dalton. My question for the two of you is this: How do you guys think the signing of Dalton is going to affect Prescott's starting quarterback job? And Michael's, I can sense the electricity.
I have my hand up first.
No.
Right, you can. All right, hold on. So how do you think it's going to affect Prescott's starting job, given the fact that he hasn't finalized a contract extension yet? And could we see Dalton replacing Dak if Dak continues to hold that for week 1?
All right, Pat, we'll split it. So Andy Dalton is not a backup quarterback. Andy Dalton is a backup plan. Pat, give me your thoughts.
Okay. Look, it's hard to get in our brains. It really is hard to get this in our brains. Andy Dalton was once a quarterback.
He was pretty good.
He was
pretty good.
I'm not telling you he was ever
like
an
4
elite player, but
Maybe not elite, but he was on the cusp of it, dude.
all right.
Do you
You know,
remember
like,
those
he could-
2014-15
Absolutely.
seasons?
Yeah.
He was a really
he
good
could get it down
quarterback.
the field.
I mean, he never –
type into his
put
weapons
us in,
AJ Green, like he could.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he played the Pats in the wild card like almost lost every single time, but like got them there.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean, okay, those days don't exist anymore. Andy Dalton is a backup, period. He is a backup now. He is not a starting quarterback.
No.
I don't know. I
Andy
think
Dalton,
he has the mindset of
I
a
said it
starting
about
quarterback,
45 seconds ago. Andy Dalton is a backup plan.
He is a backup
He's a
quarterback.
backup plan. Ready?
I agree.
Dak Prescott has played 4 seasons in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Dak Prescott has never missed a game in his NFL career. So listen to me. Hear me out. The Cowboys saw what Dalton was like, right? With good weapons and a good offensive line, and they think that if Prescott were to ever go down or hold out or just suck for some reason, Dalton can be a viable starter.
I agree.
So
Dude,
just to get into logistics of the
He's a backup
signings.
plan. I agree that he's a backup plan. But he's also a backup quarterback.
We'll see.
No, I
so
don't.
Dalton signed.
I really still see him as, being able to. You don't trust a backup quarterback with a starting role per se. You thrust him there and you're like, all right, just manage the game until we get our guy back. Typically, I feel like the Cowboys front office is confident in the fact that they could start Dalton and have him do okay, given the extensive weapons that they have on offense, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, Gallup,
I
Zeke.
think so.
Me as well. So to kind of go off of that, hypothetically, Dak holds out for the rest of the year. He doesn't sign by July 15th. He holds out for the rest of the year.
Which wouldn't surprise me, first of all.
Me neither. And how do you think Dalton adjusts to this? Because he was coming from a Bengals team where he didn't have a ton of weapons. He had AJ Green who got injured something, but he didn't have a solid core of weapons as we saw as the Bengals had the first pick and finished last year. Do you think he'll adapt to a more run-heavy offense in Zeke or a pass-heavy offense in CeeDee Lamb, Gallup, and Cooper?
Well, I think he goes pass-heavy just because in Cincinnati, he didn't have a good running back. I mean, he had Joe Mixon for a little while and Giovanni Bernard who had a few good seasons.
Dude,
but he never had a star running back. So if he got it done with his wide receivers, I don't think that would Zeke obviously help him out. I'd be naive to say no, but I think that he'd rely on CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. I mean, that's a really good wide receiver committee right there, and I think he'd be stupid not to.
I think you're kind of dwindling down Joe Mixon now, dude. He's a solid running back.
He's an extremely solid running back, but he also caught the tail end of the offensive line and tail end of Andy Dalton's stint in Cincinnati.
Bengals' offensive line is 30th in the NFL. They're atrocious.
Exactly.
They're terrible. And what the Cowboys have a fantastic offensive line. And I think that's what makes Zeke so good, dude. But I guess what I'm having trouble with right now is that you're saying that a backup quarterback is going to depend more on the pass game. That's not a backup quarterback's job.
He's not, dude, I don't think he's a backup quarterback. I just think he still happens to be a backup quarterback.
Well, when he's second on the depth chart, that makes him a backup quarterback.
Yes, okay. But you could also say that if Brady was in, a Packers uniform and Aaron Rodgers was on the bench, he's still a backup quarterback on the depth chart. It is how it works.
Dude,
well, that's what you're reducing it to.
Dude,
I don't think Andy Dalton's a backup quarterback.
Dude, you see what I'm saying? Why Andy Dalton went to the Cowboys means that Andy Dalton couldn't find a starting job anywhere else.
And also because he got cut extremely late, dude. They cut him during draft night when most of the big free agency signings are already done. And he said that he got screwed and that Cincinnati should have released him earlier because then his market would have opened up a lot. And that's just common sense, dude. If you get all your groceries picked out, and then you already leave the store, you're not going to go back to get some bread because they just stocked it up again. No, you already got some bread.
I don't see the only team I see that would maybe had signed Dalton is like maybe the Jags. I don't know, dude. I don't see.
Look, I'm just saying, I think he would have had a bigger market if he was released like maybe a month and a half ago.
Absolutely.
And riddle me this. If he was released a month and a half ago, who's a better quarterback, Cam Newton or Andy Dalton?
Newton, who has less locker room problems?
Exactly, dude. I think it also depends on what type of
style
your offense.
Especially
that's fine. We'll do it like that. Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton.
Honestly, Dalton, dude. Dude, Dalton. Honestly, how many playoff games has Jameis Winston gone to? How many playoffs has Jameis Winston gone to? How many playoffs has Dalton gone to? 4. I'm going to get into it. Dalton is 0-4 in the playoffs. He's thrown 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. It's not good playoffs, but he's also gone 8-0.
Dude.
He can lead a team. Winston's thrown 30 picks. Does Winston have more potential? I'm not going to argue on that. Winston has untapped potential. For the audience,
Michael just said that Jameis Winston is a worse quarterback than Andy Dalton.
Yes, dude. I don't know how you can argue with that. At this point in time, how can you argue with that?
Agreed. Not talent-wise, just what they've both done so far.
Dude, all right, yeah,
dude,
and you also have to look at this.
Hold on.
Pat, no. Hold on. Before you go on, give Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate. Give Andy Dalton, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate. Who does better? Andy Dalton in a heartbeat.
You're crazy.
In a heartbeat. It's not crazy at all. Dude, Winston.
Wait, Michael, you agree or disagree with Michael?
I agree with Michael.
Are you kidding me?
No, I agree with Michael on this.
Andy Dalton!
No, and actually, this is really funny because Mel Kiper had like this insane like rant where he was like, the Bengals were good like 5 years ago. But it's true. Like this guy was good. Not like
I said that. I know he was good. Not anymore, dude. Why was he released? Because they got a better guy.
Because they got the number 1 pick in the draft and they wanted to go get Burrow.
And why would they get the number 1 pick in the draft than a quarterback?
Dude, the Buccaneers just cut Jameis Winston for a 43-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, the greatest quarterback of all time.
It was past his prime and wasn't even a top 15 quarterback last year.
Take a chance on him. He's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Dude, I get that. I know, but
they also had the third lowest.
The script on that too, dude.
They had the third lowest in fan attendance. They needed a big guy named to get in there. Tom Brady? Boom.
I'm not arguing with that, dude. I'm just saying, Andy Dalton, I think you're forgetting his years that he had in 2014, 15, and 16.
14, 15, 16.
He made the Pro Bowl twice. How many Pro Bowls has Jameis Winston gone to?
Fair.
0. And he had better weapons.
I want to make something extremely clear.
He had better weapons and an arguably better offensive line.
I want to make sure we're on the same table or on the same sheet of music. Are you saying, like, skill-wise, Winston Dalton, or like what they've accomplished in their entire like NFL careers?
Not
NFL careers. I would probably say Dalton.
NFL careers, and if you give each other the same opportunities. If you give each other the same dude, how can you argue AJ Green against Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate? How can you argue that?
Of course. Dude, Jameis Winston is mobile. He has uncapped potential. Is interception the problem?
I'm not arguing potential. I think Jameis Winston has more potential than Andy Dalton does at the age of like 30 or whatever. That's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that right now, I would take Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston.
You're a psychopath.
I'm not a
All
psychopath,
right,
dude.
You're a psychopath.
He's made Pro Bowls. He's gone to the playoffs. He's proven what he can do with
And
good
lost.
weapons and a good offensive line. Winston hasn't gone to any playoffs. He hasn't gone to any Pro Bowls, and he's proven that even with good weapons, he's not that good. And he's thrown 30 picks.
You're on.
So regardless of our positions on this, I think we agreed the signing made sense. So I kind of want to transition into a signing that made absolutely zero sense. Hopkins.
Hold on. Signing made 0 cents.
First of all, it was a
Hold
trade,
on.
not a signing.
That trade that made 0 sense. Coming from, and here's my question.
Wait, hold on.
Actually, no.
Who did it
Hold
make
on.
no sense for? Hold on.
It didn't make any sense for the. All right, which side do you think it didn't make any sense for?
I would say Texans if you're going to argue one of them.
I don't understand this move. Okay, they got an aging David Johnson and 2 draft picks in exchange for arguably the most talented wide receiver in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
What? And I think
Randy Moss got traded for a 4th-round pick when he was like 25.
I don't thoughts because I have no words for this. Like I truthfully,
we haven't talked about.
We haven't talked about Hopkins much, and we should.
I think this really boils down to like, a potential fight or disagreement between Bill O'Brien and Hopkins.
Well, dude, Hopkins said, I never had a relationship with Bill O'Brien. I've said it in past podcasts, and I'll say it again. It came down to that, dude. It was the same thing with Randy Moss. He was kind of like a little bit out there, and then he got traded for a 4th to the Patriots and then put up like 1,900 yards or whatever it was.
I'm not pretending to know what happened between Hopkins and Bill O'Brien or the extent of what happened, but I just think Randy Moss had a lot more of, attitude / locker room problems.
Yeah, and look, I probably shouldn't argue Randy Moss and Hopkins' situation.
Hopkins is one of the more, not low-key receivers, but as far as his ego goes, for being one of the top receivers in the NFL, his ego is relatively low. He's not in the news for,
at least he doesn't look it,
Exactly. He's not in the news for, being flashy or, Odell was like with driving boats tonight. Like he's just not like a flashy dude in general. I just don't quite understand the move on the Texans part and how are you going to trade away someone with that caliber of talent?
For me, stupid move. I don't understand. I don't get it. It probably had to do with O'Brien and not having a relationship with them. Like Neil said, I'm not going to claim that I know all about that because I don't. That's between them. No, I think it's a stupid move. Like Neil said, Neil pretty much covered all the bases. Aging David Johnson. Running backs don't last long in this league. David Johnson is past his prime.
Yep.
I'm assuming. You know what I mean?
And I think what's going to be interesting
I think you guys are focusing – at first I let it slide, but you guys are focusing too much on the age. He had a lot of injuries. Okay, the guy had a lot of injuries that kind of set him back a little bit. I think we need to focus more on his injuries that he had. I mean, he missed like a lot of games because of it, and then got sat for Chase Edmonds, I think his name is. Really good, or Kenyon Drake too. Really good running back.
Dude, look,
but not better than David Johnson.
Could he go off? Maybe. Will he go off? Probably not. I want to talk a little bit about the Cardinals and their receiving of this trade. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. How are we feeling about this mashup?
So I'm kind of curious, and this is what I had for you guys. How do you think, going from, and me and Michael were talking about this, I think the 3 of us were talking about this, going from Deshaun Watson, who is like sort of mobile, to Kyler Murray, who's extremely mobile now. Do you think this is going to positively or negatively impact Hopkins' performance, his stats? Thoughts?
Well, if you look at history, usually mobile quarterbacks and talented wide receivers don't really gel together that well if you put in the majority. I mean, you don't see any, stud wide receivers on Lamar Jackson's team, but you do see a lot on Patrick Mahomes' team. I'm not saying that the wide receiver talents-wise stack up against each other, but I think it really speaks to, like, how the offense runs. And look, Watson is a gunslinger, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. In my opinion, he's probably top 5, possibly top 3.
Top 3
from that, when you go from that to a guy like Kyler Murray, who's I don't know if he's even the best at, if he's in the top half of the NFL accuracy wise. It's a
Yeah.
steep, it's a pretty big, fall. So I don't
It's
see
a
Hopkins
fall.
maintaining the
Dude,
same
but
yards that he did last year.
to be honest, it's a simple thought process. If you're able to scramble and you're able to move, it gives the receiver more time to catch the ball. Period.
That too, but do you have the accuracy to get him the ball?
And that's a problem, and we're going to see about that. But I don't know, dude.
Here's the thing with Hopkins. You don't exactly have to make it accurate every single time. He's more than likely going to
dude, but you got to put it in the ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to put it in the area code.
I just don't think, and like typically, yes, that'd be a logical argument. Like if you're moving, like logistically, you're not able to make it as an accurate throw as if you're standing still. But I think, even if Kyler Murray makes a few throws that are like,
hold on. No, I'm sorry, Neil, to cut you off, but we got to stop arguing this. Deshaun Watson is not a comparable quarterback to Kyler Murray. Let's be real for 2 seconds.
No.
I'm not trying to denounce any of I know you're not. I know you're not. I'm saying as a whole. Kyler Murray, I'm not going to denounce his rookie year because he had a very solid rookie campaign.
Especially given his,
well, he was picked number 1 in the draft, so you'd hope he'd be a really good draft pick. But look, Deshaun Watson, he's a decade talent. The guy is sick, so we should really not be comparing him to Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins' numbers are going to fall at least a little bit. I don't think we should really argue
I do see his numbers falling a bit just because of the difference in the abilities of the quarterbacks, definitely. But I don't know, dude. I mean, first of all, I want to say I think the Texans are going to have a losing record this year.
And
having a losing record this year.
While we're on just strange trades, so another super interesting one, Diggs. Pat,
first round pick,
very interesting.
Pretty high asking price.
My question is this, because I really think the Bills could make a push for this division this year. Brady's gone. The Bills could make so let me pose. So will the addition of Diggs be enough to give the Bills that extra edge? And if not, what else does this team need to win the AFC East?
And Neil, my answer to that, the question was this team to win the AFC East? Nothing. This is the piece that the Bills needed to be able to win this division, period, paragraph. A defense led by Tre'Davious White in the secondary. Arguably, I think Gilmore takes the cake. Arguably one of the best corners in the league.
I'd say top 5.
Fantastic. They were second last year in points allowed, third in passing yards allowed. Their passing game ranked 26th. That's a problem. And who better to get on your team with John Brown and Cole Beasley, who aren't big names? You know what I mean? They need a deep threat, a guy that they can get down the field that is going to be able to put this team to the next level. He's an elusive deep threat. It's exactly what the team needed. And you know what? I'll raise you one. He's going to be the show on this offense. Think about the offensive pieces that he had on the Vikings. Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Kyle Rudolph, just to name a few. Do you know what I mean? Like, there were just so many other offensive pieces that this team had.
He's just kind of like one of them, and now he's going to be
the guy. He will be the guy. And a rising guy in Josh Allen who had a pretty good year. He had a pretty impressive year.
He didn't at all.
I liked watching him play. Where he struggled on the Vikings was pretty much just not getting the ball as much as he could have, just because obviously not. They had so many weapons to spread the ball out to. It's the smart thing to do. He's good enough to not have to share the ball, and I am a firm believer in that. The matchup just makes sense. Allen is a super strong arm. He's a deep threat. Perfect to sling it right to the corner of the end zone. I'm sad to say it as a Pats fan, I have the Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East this year. I think they have all the pieces, and I think they're going to be able to dethrone the Patriots. For what, 10, 11 straight years? I think Diggs will be the cornerstone, the key part, a key addition to this team that will take them to the next level. Mike, you have thoughts?
You have the floor.
You can't argue with that. You really can't. I mean, look, you got Devin Singletary is a really good running back. They took a guy early in the draft. 3 solid wide receivers. A big arm quarterback in Josh Allen to get to a deep threat Stefon Diggs. You got a top 5 defense. You got good coaching.
They
It's
got all
the
the tools.
formula to win the division,
They got all the
dude. And
tools.
it's sad to say, but yeah, I don't know how you could argue against that. I got the Bills winning the division, and I think
Only
Stefon
thing-
Diggs was the piece to do that. And you know what I like a lot about it is that the Bills were willing and ballsy enough to go out there and make that trade. Because I don't know if there are a lot of teams that would say like a first-round pick and like 3 other picks that they got for Diggs. I don't know a whole lot of franchises that would really be willing to do that. And I applaud the Bills for doing that because, you know, if you're the Bills, you got some aging pieces on your team and you got some new rising talents on your team and
young flavors.
Yeah. Young flavors. And I just think it's the right trade to make. You know, you get a solid young wide receiver to accompany your young quarterback who can sling
One of the things that I do worry about is their offensive line. They rank in the bottom half, right? I think they're right in the middle. I don't know the exact number that they are, but they're kind of middle of the pack.
Yeah. Yep.
But you know what? As we've seen, I think this team is going to rely pretty heavily on passing. Josh Allen has a big arm. They got a really good young receiver in Diggs. I think this team is going to be, forgive me when I say this, like a gunslinging team.
Yeah. And it does scare me they didn't get anyone in the draft to fix the offensive line, but they did draft, I think they draft AJ Epineza, who was on the Patriots board for a while, and he's going to add to that pass rush a lot, and that's going to be a scary team, dude. They could make a deep playoff run. They really could.
I agree. They have filled all the holes that they needed to fill. For all the Bills fans, I hope not. As long as Diggs doesn't go down or Allen doesn't go down, I see it. I agree with you, Michael. A very deep run playoffs.
The only thing that sucks is that you got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens that are in their way.
That's problematic for them. You know what? Last year they almost beat the Ravens.
I know.
They lost by a touchdown.
Not impossible.
And they didn't have Diggs. So, I mean, we're going to see what happens.
So, I really wanted to dive into Todd Gurley. Cut by the Rams, signed with the Falcons. He actually, kind of weird stat. So he went down in yards per game from 2018 to 19. In 2018, he averaged just over 78 yards per game, and in 2019, averaged just over 57 yards per game. My question, and I'll defer to you, Michael, will this decline continue in Atlanta, or will this new organization improve his game, better his stats? Thoughts?
He's too old.
No, he's 26.
Yeah, it's not a question of old as much as injury.
It's not age. So I'm a little confused though. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say so far. But it's not entirely because of the injuries, because obviously injuries are a problem, but it's not entirely because of it. Gurley started 15 games last year, and he had on average 17 touches per game, which is like pretty good. I mean, that's only 3 less than what he had the year prior. But it's what he did with those 17 touches, which is why I'm a little bit alarmed, because compared to the year before, like Neil prefaced earlier, Gurley went down in every single statistical category, which worries me a lot because of the only 3 touch reduced.
And you know what? Freeman missed 40% of his games.
Oh my God, I was going to say that. Oh, come on, man. All right.
Sorry.
So
it's important.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Look, I'd be naive if I didn't attribute some of his lackluster play to his knee injuries, because obviously
it's part of it.
The arthritis is a problem. But the Rams babied him last year.
Fact.
So I don't think that the arthritis would be a problem. And like Pat said before, Freeman missed just under 40% of his games, but in the past 3 years. Before that, I think he played like 80% or something. But in the past 3 years, he's missed 40% of his games. Which is not good. So you go from Freeman to Gurley, 2 relatively injury-riddled guys. And look, if they signed like a solid backup for Gurley, I would think completely different of this. You know, a guy who they could put on the field who can still keep up the solid play while Gurley is like healing on the bench. I'd be fine with that. But they didn't. And their running back committee right now is Ito Smith and Brian Hill. And that scares me a lot, dude, because, you know, Gurley's not the bell cow that he was, sadly, a year or 2 ago.
And you know what,
that worries me a lot.
I have 2 things to say. A, I agree that he was the absolute bell cow. But the rise and fall of pretty much all running backs happens so quick. It's quick. You know what I mean? It's Marshawn Lynch almost winning them.
you wouldn't think that Gurley would have is steep as a fall, figuring out he won like NL MVP like the year prior.
And the problem is his injuries. And I agree with you. The problem is his arthritis. And you know what, dude? It's $8 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not a stupid amount of money, but
dude, and I guess the only word I can express about this entire thing is just like
meh.
Yeah.
Meh.
Like the word is you know, like
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, so to bring it back home to New England, Joe Thuney. Just initial thoughts to wrap up. So given the fact that Thuney, he's not really necessarily, and Pat, kick it off to you, he's not really necessarily a problem child in regards to his contract. He's not looking to be, one of the highest paid guards in the NFL. That's not his position.
Wow.
Do you? Well, hold on. Obviously, every guy wants to be that. But
no, not even that, dude. He's making a lot of money right now.
He's not.
I want to talk about that.
Dak. He's not Dak. Do you think he reaches an agreement with the Patriots? Would you want to see him traded elsewhere? Initial thoughts before we wrap up.
Okay. I like Thuney. I really do, and I think he's a great part of our team. But damn, is he expensive, dude. We would gain so much money from getting rid of him. And is he good enough to keep in lieu of that money? If I had a genie in a bottle and I was like, and I wish for like 3 things about the Patriots that could change, reasonably, I would trade Joe Thuney. I think
he's also only 27, so if he's asking for this much money now, it's only going to increase.
He's not asking for a lot of money. That's not what it is. That's what the franchise tag was. The franchise tag, for the record, was $14.8 million.
Yep.
That is 7th or 6th. If you were to earn that, that's 6th in the NFL for offensive linemen, which is very expensive. But here's the thing. I'll give you some of the stats if you don't know Thuney that well. He hasn't missed a game in his entire career. Okay? He's 27, so he's had a pretty long career to this point. Last year, he allowed the 3rd least pressures in the NFL for linemen, which is really good. And he was a top 5 all-around guard in the NFL last year. It's really good. But the franchise tag was $14.8 million.
That's like, what is that?
Which is 6th most. And the Pats pay $45 million to their O-line.
That's
to
like,
put in reference, is 6th most in the NFL. That's 22% of their team.
That's crazy.
So, especially because they're paying Shaq Mason $10 million. He had a 5-year extension for $50 million, $10 million a year. You don't want to have your guards. I mean, that's the top 2 guards in the NFL right there, cap-wise. That's number 1. If you combine both of them, their salaries is the highest of any guard in the NFL. That's a lot of money. But my kind of, to keep it short and sweet, sorry. He's a great player. But either sign him to a sub-$10 million contract or trade him for a future second-rounder. I don't want him here for $15 million.
Me neither. I completely agree, Michael. Look, we're 10th in the league for our offensive line. We got a good offensive line.
There have been some rankings that have the Patriots up to 3.
Yeah, we have a very good offensive line right now. We're doing good there. We talked about this in past podcasts. If you want to hear a little bit more about just offensive line talk, you can check more to our last podcast. But look, we pay a lot. What was it, Mike? Did you say 22?
22% of our team's spending is on offensive linemen.
On offensive line. I think that was obviously done to protect Brady, but like, obviously, no good offensive line isn't going to hurt. I don't want to see Thuney go, but then again, I kind of do. It's going to open up so much cap space. I think it's going to open the team up. It may be a second.
Remember, you don't have to let him go.
So many opportunities if they release this guy.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's not a release. You don't release him. You trade him to another team for a second rounder. That's what we need to get our heads around, is that you're not letting him go and you're not getting anything in return. You could potentially be getting a second round pick in return, which is obviously, as you know, it's a very high pick.
And Thuney, and I think Thuney, and I don't know if this sounds like weird, but Thuney has the name. When people like Joe Thuney, he's good. You know what I mean? Like,
he's a household name.
He's a household name. You can get like Michael said, you can get a second rounder for that. That's good. You know what I mean? That's like the whole Mohamed Sanu thing. We had to give a second rounder for that because Mohamed Sanu had the name. And we talked about this before in past podcasts. He's got a lot of talent, Joe Thuney. I think he's a great player. But do I hope that we maybe trade him away? And you know what, dude? And if you think about it, that's the Belichick way. Trading away people for new pieces no matter what they've done for you.
New
Loyalty to the organization? Nah. Don't worry about that. I am worried about treating players, and then once they've been on the team for like 5-6 years, get them all. That's how the Patriots work. I think Thuney will end up being traded. I kind of want him to be traded as much as I like him because I think it's going to open up this Patriots team.
Interesting.
I can't agree with that.
Awesome pod.
That was a good one. That was a really good one.
All right.
I'm Neil.
I'm Pat.
I'm Michael.
And we'll see you next week. Let's go.